It is with my great honor that I present Karan with the Variety International Vanguard Award. Filmmaker Award, sorry. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Karan.
Okay, Karan, obviously we have a very excited audience here to talk about you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Karan, you're the king of all conversations. We love talking with Karan.
Thank you. All my love to you. So much gratitude. Sorry.
And we will get a chance for audience questions at the end, or, we'll have a good amount of time for that. So maybe let's just start with, this is the 25-year anniversary of since you started your career back in the late 90s as a filmmaker. How much have things changed since then? And where are the biggest changes you've seen?
So much has changed in the last 25 years. When I began my journey in cinema, we used to edit on a machine called the Steenbeck. Technology has evolved in front of my eyes. Like literally we saw from like Steenbeck going to the Avid machine, and we saw the emergence of computer graphics. We saw the emergence of camera technology, like the emergence of what now we swing around as drones all across our films, which never existed in those days. So much has changed. We went from like literally to the digital revolution as well. We went from film to digital, and that was at that point the most heartbreaking, I think, evolution that took place to any filmmaker. But change is evident, and change is essential, and you have to adapt to your time. Same thing, it must have happened when black and white moved to color, so I'm sure filmmakers had the dilemma at that time. But like, I know we all of us filmmakers back home and everywhere in the world, I think, must have discussed that the magic of film is so different from, what the digital world can give you. But then you grow to, kind of accept it, envelop it, and move on. So when you say 25 years, I feel I've seen it all unfold in front of me. But more than anything else, I feel like there is a tremendous loss of innocence. When I was 25 and I made my first film, you're like vulnerable and innocent, and a lot of your writing comes out of that innocence. And now you're much more premeditated, more prepared, more worried, you feel more policed, by social media and the critics, and you intellectualize your convictions. At 25, I was just all about conviction and nothing else. So there's an upside, and there's also a downside to growth in cinema.
Of course. Now, are you somebody who pays attention to reviews and on social media?
Yes, very much so. I'm a troll favorite. I get trolled a lot, and I've grown to really enjoy it. Because the only thing is, when you can't beat them, you have to join them, and the only way I can join them is troll them back in my head. So like I'm like, okay, you said this to me, I have a middle finger to show you as well. I'm not gonna let it get to me, because eventually you don't have a name and I do, because you're hiding behind your name and I'm not hiding behind mine.
That's a great attitude.
Yeah, as far as critics go, I have a lot of respect, because I believe that none of them come with an agenda. They're not here because they don't like you, or they don't know anything about you. They don't like your film, and you've got to read stuff, because only if you acknowledge what's wrong can you really walk towards brilliance. Most of us in the creative arts or as artists tend to live in bubbles of our own.
Yeah.
And bubbles that we like to create, and a machinery that we create for ourselves. We bring people into that bubble who will go on to be yes men and women, and then we believe them, and we don't believe the world. The important thing is to read that review and know that while people may love your film, but they have things to say, learn from that. So I read it, barring the fact that there are many that is not constructive, and that criticism is coming from an inorganic space, and you can sense that. But to many prolific critics, I've always taken their word very seriously and always learned from it.
Okay. You are the son of a film producer. How much did that impact your path as a filmmaker yourself?
Well, I grew up in the lap of Hindi cinema. That was the language my father produced films in. But I have to tell you, way back in the 70s, when my father was he began his journey as a producer was the most thankless. It was the most thankless job. It's not the job of the studio head today, what it was. It was like appeasing the movie star was like number one on a producer's agenda. And like my father, I saw him like literally struggle between like managing a director and managing a producer, and invariably managing delusion and ego. The thing with delusion is that there is no vaccination for delusion. You know, it's a disease that keeps growing, and it's a pandemic that has no stop. You know, you can't. You know, delusion is a disease, and you can't vaccinate it because it's going to keep you. How do you combat people who think of themselves in a certain way, and you have to show them the mirror, but you don't want to show them the mirror because then, you know, they won't work with you. So many a time I get like thoughts of writing, you know, anonymous letters to people and say, look, dear sir, dear man, I'm a producer, this is what things are like in your career, and someone's got to tell you this because you're charging X amount, but like I want to give you 1/4 of that. But like you have to manage it. So as a producer, my father managed delusion and ego, and I see that 25 years later I'm doing the same. And then many a time I look at myself, I said, am I deluded as well about some things, and I could be, that no one's telling me about. And ego is such an unproductive emotion, you know, to have. Self-respect you hold on to, ego you let go of, is what my belief has always been.
Fantastic.
And everyone seems to agree here. You have launched so many careers. Is it something that you can immediately spot when somebody has that star quality?
Unfortunately, it's been attributed to nepotism, but it's not always true because way back before the term became fashionable, there was an instinct I had when I saw Alia Bhatt's audition. And at that point, it didn't matter to me that Alia Bhatt is one of our most successful actors in India and has proved from strength to strength, and you know, and my favorite. Also, in many ways, my firstborn, because you know, it's like the feeling was very parental. But when she walked into the room and when I auditioned her, it didn't matter who her father was or who her sister was. It was just like I felt of all the auditions I had, she just jumped out. Many years later, it's been attributed to nepotism, which is sad and unfortunate. Similarly, there's so many careers of filmmakers, actors and directors and editors and cinematographers. But you know, you always get tagged as being like leading the nepotistic army, but actually they grab you of what is most essential when you choose an artist to work with you is your core instinct. When someone walks into your room and has a conversation, I believe we're all blessed with the power of having an amazing super instinct. It's a superpower. You know, sometimes we put layers over it, and that takes away from your core instinct. And I've always operated just on instinct. So whenever somebody has walked in, had a meeting, I've just known it in my gut. If this individual will eventually direct a film for me, edit a film for me, or act in a movie for me, it's nothing else. There's no rationale. There's no reason. There's no audition that can make me, you know, tell you a different story. It's just your instinct. And I think we have it in, not just for cinema, for any job we do. We're born with it. But then you put layers of societal pressure, intellectualism, other kind of circumstantial stuff, and then it takes away. Instinct is your first thought. When you meet a person, you have an instinct. I like this person or not. It's the same instinct.
Yeah.
We like you.
You've seen enough of me, unfortunately, to make that choice. Thank you, but
It's funny, nepotism is something that is a big conversation, talking point in Hollywood as well.
it's actually very strange because normally what happens with Hollywood happens much later in our industry. This time we were leading.
Yeah.
We led that argument, and then when New Yorker carried the cover story, and I was like, they're late to this party. The New Yorker's clearly not doing enough research,
Right.
because this is a big talking point in India.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Who have been some of your biggest inspirations?
In my growing years, it was vintage Raj Kapoor. He's a prolific filmmaker. I really looked up to him. I was obsessed with his cinema, obsessed with the cinema of Mr. Yash Chopra, who made many, many beautiful movies. These two have been very strong influences right through. In Tamil cinema, it's been Mani Ratnam, who has made some great films. And when in our growing years, we watched a lot of Indian cinema. We were exposed to Hollywood much later, and then you grow to love Steven Spielberg, and then right up to James Cameron, and you know what George Lucas and Steven Spielberg and James Cameron have done for like the world in terms of technology and storytelling. And I love the fact that Steven Spielberg specifically blends technology and emotion in possibly the most organic and beautiful way. Huge respect, for that. Huge respect for that. But there are so many emerging filmmakers as we speak in every language of the world. There are so many films that have been inspiring, and they continue to. When I saw Parasite, for example, when it came from Korea and blew all our collective minds, you know that there's something special happening in each corner of the world. We're so proud of RRR and what it achieved on a global scale.
That was a big Oscar moment.
Yes, it was. And we're having a moment in cinema as well this year. We've had so many successes. We've had Shah Rukh Khan ruling the roost this year. Thank you. So I'm like, we're having a moment with streaming, we're having a moment theatrically. I believe like we're having many moments, and it's great. And the fact that I'm here in Jeddah for the Red Sea Festival, which I'm very honored to be here for, with a film called Kill, which was hugely accepted at TIFF, at the Toronto Film Festival. And it's totally different from anything that we've ever done in Indian cinema. I would go on record and say it is the most violent film made out of India. It's a genre film, and I would tell most people to go on an empty stomach before watching it. But like, it is a genre film. It's breaking through. We've managed to strike a beautiful deal with Lionsgate, thanks to WME and the great guys there, and like, it's been amazing.
Fantastic.